Where are you now? I'm watching baseball with Johnson. At that moment, I was convinced that my husband was telling a big lie. Because Johnson isn't in a condition to watch baseball right now. Realizing everything, I decided to take revenge on my husband. With an unexpected ally by my side. My name is Angelica, 27 years old. After graduating from a medical university, I work as a nurse at a university hospital. Every job is tough, but nursing is a profession that deals with people's lives. While we may not be directly involved as doctors, we provide daily support and minor treatments, so the responsibility is nearly the same. When I was in elementary school, I was hospitalized due to an illness. Feeling scared and alone, I would cry by myself whenever my parents couldn't visit because of their work. But the person who comforted me was the nurse who took care of me at the time. Angelica, it's okay to feel lonely. You'll get better soon. Just hang in there a bit longer. That nurse would cheer me up almost every day. Thanks to her, I can confidently say that I made it through those difficult times. After my discharge, I looked up to her and decided to become a nurse. After working hard and achieving my dream, I've now been a nurse for 5 years. The job is undoubtedly challenging, but every time I see a patient smile, I genuinely feel grateful to have chosen this profession. There is another reason I am able to keep doing this work. That's because of my husband, George, whom I married a year ago. I met George at a blind date. We found we had a lot in common and hit it off instantly, leading to us dating. After dating for 2 years, he proposed to me. I love how passionate you are about everything, Angelica. I want to be with you forever. You sure? Even if it's with someone like me? What are you talking about? It's because it's you, Angelica. That's why I want to be with you. So, will you marry me? Yes, I want to be with you, George, forever. And so, we registered our marriage a year ago. However, there's one thing that worries me. That is, he and his parents don't get along. Ideally, we would have had a wedding ceremony when we registered our marriage, but he refused. The reason was simple. He didn't want to deal with his parents. So, when it came time to pay them a visit for the wedding announcement, it was hard to set a date. I managed to go to my parents-in-law's house to greet them, but my husband was in a bad mood the whole time and stayed there for only 30 minutes. We got married without really getting to know my in-laws. Of course, I'd like them to attend our wedding ceremony. So, I decided to honestly express my feelings. George, can I talk to you for a moment? Huh? What's up? Well, it's about your parents. With the wedding coming up, I think we should meet with them and have a proper discussion. Upon hearing my words, George let out a deep sigh and replied with a hint of annoyance. Look, I told you before not to talk about my parents, right? I don't think I need to invite anyone to my wedding. But, I really want your parents to be there, George. Like I said, I'm okay without them. If you really want family there, why not just ask my older brother? That should be enough, right? I mean, I'd love for your brother to come, but you're being too persistent, Angelica. This is a family issue on my side, so I'd appreciate it if you don't interfere too much. George sighed again and left the living room. I was left alone in the room, sinking into the couch, feeling completely drained. Staring blankly at the ceiling, I was overcome with a feeling of emptiness. How did things get to this point? My Phil and Mill are such good people, and it's so lonely that we're estranged from them. I wish they could attend the wedding, but how can I convince him? Every time I suggested let's meet with your parents, George firmly declined. Eventually, he began to get angry just from hearing about them. Then, one day, George's brother Johnson and his wife Lucy decided to visit our apartment. I had dinner with them once, just the 4 of us, when we announced our marriage. They live in the neighboring city, which might be similar to Boston, so it was easy to meet if we wanted to. However, this was their first visit since our wedding. Around 10 a.m., the apartment buzzer rang. I opened the door to find Johnson and Lucy standing there. Hello, Johnson. It's been a while. Upon hearing my greeting, Johnson gave a bright smile and said, Hey Angelica. Long time no see. Sorry for dropping by so suddenly. Is it okay? Of course, it's fine. George is inside. Please come on in. All right, thanks. Let's get inside then. Lucy began to remove her shoes after Johnson. I greeted her with a hello, but she didn't respond. I wondered if she hadn't heard me. The last time we met, Lucy didn't talk much. I really wanted to get to know her better. As we enjoyed some cake, the conversation was light and fun. Eventually, it shifted to having lunch, so I decided to prepare a meal. While getting things ready in the kitchen, Johnson approached me. "Angelica, I heard from my dad that you haven't visited the family home since getting married." Yay. "Well, it's George, isn't it? He's always had a tough relationship with our dad." "Yes, that's right. Actually, I would like father-in-law and mother-in-law to come to our wedding, but it's not easy for George." To my revelation, Johnson looked concerned and said, with a troubled expression. After a moment of thought, he spoke apologetically. "I'm sorry about this. George can be stubborn sometimes. I wish I could help more." "No, it's okay. I'm sorry to burden you with this. No, I should be saying sorry for not being able to help out more. Anyway, I'll try to talk to George about it. Really. Thank you so much, Johnson." Meanwhile, George and Lucy seem to be engrossed in a mobile game, laughing and having fun. All while I'm here worrying, he's out there laughing and having a good time. I began to feel more and more irritated with him. When Johnson and his wife returned home, my husband called me in a low voice. "Hey." "Yes." "What is it? Did you say something to Johnson?" "Why, what happened?" "When he was leaving, my brother told me, you should think about Angelics and face our father and the others properly. When you were making lunch, you two were talking, weren't you? You said something you shouldn't, didn't you?" George stared at me with an intensity I'd never seen before. The air thickened with tension, and then he broke the silence. "You know, it's not very nice of you to talk to my brother when you know I don't want anything to do with my dad and the others, is it?" "Well, I didn't mean it like. I've honestly lost the excitement for our wedding now." "What? No." George clicked his tongue loudly and left the house. He didn't return until the next day. From that day on, things became increasingly strained between George and me. Our conversations dwindled, and the cheerful vibe we once had was gone. Then, gradually, George's absences began to increase, and then I began to notice that he was rarely home, especially on weekends. He's going over there way too often. So one day, I mustered up the courage to confront him. "Hey, you've been out every weekend lately. Where are you going? What does it matter? Do I have to report everything to you? Why are you being like this? Do you have something to hide?" I half-jokingly asked, and I caught a subtle shift in his expression. I didn't miss that moment. In a flustered manner, he responded, I've been visiting my parents' house." "Parents' house? Your parents?" "Yes. With the wedding coming up, and you said you wanted my parents there, remember?" "Well, yes, but shouldn't I go with you?" "No, it's okay. My parents would probably feel awkward if Angelica were there. Anyway, that's just how it is, so don't worry about it." He ended the conversation there, not giving me any room to further discuss. It felt like he didn't even care about my feelings. Yet, George continued to visit his parents' house every weekend. I expressed my desire to accompany him, but he never agreed. Then, one day, while working at the hospital where I work, a familiar patient was brought in for emergency. Oh my, Johnson. He was sluggish in response and running a fever, showing mild signs of convulsions. The doctor believed it was probably heat stroke. I tried contacting Johnson's wife, Lucy, but she didn't pick up. I thought Lucy was a stay-at-home mom. Why isn't she answering the phone? With Johnson in this condition, what should I do? I knew panicking wouldn't help. I changed my mind and decided to call my husband. However, like Lucy, he didn't answer. George was likely at his parents' home today. With no other option, I nervously dialed my in-laws' home phone. I hadn't really spoken to George's parents since our marriage and had the feeling they might not think too highly of me. They may not think well of me, but I can't worry about that now. After a few rings, "Hello," George's mother, Mill, answered. Excuse me, I'm Angelica. Long time no see, Mill." Angelica. It's been a while. Have you been well?" "Yes, thanks to you." "I'm sorry I haven't been able to visit. Don't worry about it. I'm just glad to see you looking well. By the way, is George doing okay?" Yes, he's fine. Wait, what? Her words made me pause. George should be at his parents' place right now. Confused, I hesitantly asked, Mill, isn't George Bear with you right now? George. I haven't seen him since he introduced you to us. What? I thought he visited there every week all these time. Days, no way. You know he hates us, don't you, Angelica? George hasn't been visiting his parents. What's going on? Didn't he go back home to mend fences with his parents in preparation for our wedding? The more I thought about it, the more puzzled I became. To verify the truth, I called George again. Of course, he didn't answer at first, but I kept calling over and over. After about the 10th time, he finally picked up. He didn't hide his annoyance. What? Why are you calling me so many times? I'm busy. You're busy. You haven't even been to your parents' house. What? How do you? I just spoke to Mill on the phone. Tell me, not just today, but you haven't been visiting them all this time, have you? Well, that's... Explain yourself. Where are you right now? As I waited for his response, George nonchalantly said, I'm watching baseball with Johnson. Baseball. Can't you hear the cheers of the game? Johnson and I are having a blast. At that moment, all the pent-up anger burst through. Sure enough, I could hear lively voices in the background. It seemed he really was at a baseball game. But that wasn't the issue. The main problem was that George was lying. How should I confront him about this? While holding back my anger, I suddenly heard, Hey George, how long are you gonna be on the phone? Over the phone, I heard my brother-in-law's wife Natsumi's voice. We just met the other day, so there is no way to make a mistake. The next thing I knew, the line was disconnected, leaving only the dial tone. So that's what was going on. Everything was a lie. I can't forgive this. I'll corner him by any means necessary. Having realized everything, I headed to Johnson's room. Luckily, he was already stable and seemed to be sleeping comfortably. I thought I'd come back later. As I was about to leave the room, a voice from behind said, Angelica. Yo, Johnson. Are you okay? Yay. I'm good. Just a heat stroke, right? I felt kind of sluggish but was too busy to drink water. Seriously, you need to be more careful. When you were brought in, it really scared me. Hada, my bad. So, why are you here, Angelica? Well, actually, I told Johnson that my husband was probably with Lucy right now. Instead of being surprised, Johnson just smirked and chuckled. So, you noticed too, Angelica. Wait, did you know about this already, Johnson? Yeah, kinda. Though I found out just a month ago and had just started gathering evidence. But there's more than enough evidence now, so don't worry. I had no idea. I'm sorry. No worries. I was actually looking for the right time to tell you. It turned out this way, but I feel like I can finally move forward. Johnson gave a weak smile, but he looked lonely. At the same time, I felt an immense dislike for those two who had caused Johnson and me so much pain. After waiting for Johnson's recovery, we headed to his parents' house. Explaining the whole situation to Johnson's parents, they were at a loss for words. They both looked apologetic. Angelica. I'm so sorry. I can't believe our son cheated. We're really sorry, Angelica. We never expected this. It's okay, Phil Mill. I'm all right, but still, right, Mom. Exactly. We can't just apologize and expect to be forgiven. We're truly sorry. It's okay. Instead, could you help Johnson and me out a bit? Johnson and I proposed two things to his parents. To completely ignore any plea for help from my husband and Lucy. To accept and support our respective decisions to divorce. Without any hesitation, they promised to cooperate with us. After that, I called my husband while Johnson called Lucy. Perhaps he was startled by being called at the same time as Lucy, but my husband answered right away. Hello, Angelica. What's up? What do you think? You're with Lucy right now, aren't you? What are you talking about? Why would I be with Johnson's wife? I heard Lucy's voice in the background when I called earlier. Plus, Johnson knows everything. We have solid evidence of the affair. What? Still thinking he could talk his way out of it, he kept spouting nonsense like it's a misunderstanding, and we just happened to meet. My patience had truly run out with George, who, even now, showed no remorse and only seemed focused on protecting himself. As if to vent my anger at being betrayed, I raised my voice. "Don't give me that bullshit. Misunderstanding. What are you talking about now? Do you really think that excuse will work? You used my feelings and betrayed me. In the worst way. I will never forgive you. I'm divorcing a man like you." Wait. I never intended to divorce. You've got nerve, cheating on me and then saying that. Let me make myself clear, I have no intention of making up with you. I hope you and that woman both rot in hell. Your parents won't help you anymore. Live the rest of your life in regret, you jerk. I hung up without waiting for a reply. Soon after, Johnson ended his call, and we went to the town hall to get divorce papers. In the end, my husband and I divorced. Though initially reluctant, he eventually signed the papers after being persuaded by his parents. Of course, Johnson also finalized his divorce. We made sure to demand a hefty compensation from them. Later, I learned that my ex-husband had been involved with Lucy for quite some time. It seems he met up with her during the company's lunch break and after work, and unfortunately, his co-workers caught wind of the affair at the worst possible time. As a result, George's reputation at work took a nosedive. Unable to bear the judgmental gazes of those around him, he repeatedly missed work without notice until he was ultimately forced to resign. Lucy, who was a stay-at-home wife, seems to have experienced a complete turnaround in her life. For a while after the divorce, she lived with George, but as money became tight, their arguments increased, and it seems they broke things off entirely within a few months. It's likely that they won't have a stable life for a while. As for me, I've been getting by day without letting it get to me too much. Right after the divorce, I moved to an apartment near my workplace and have been enjoying a carefree life. I still keep in touch with Johnson and my in-laws regularly. I am where I am today thanks to them. They'll always be special to me, no matter what. I'll strive to live in a way that does not let them down. I'm determined to prove that one can find happiness alone. I've made a strong promise to myself to do so.